What is up, y'all? Today we are back and we are earlier than normal. Thank God. Like, I like to get in when it's a little light outside to where we ain't going to the depths of the night. Last night I was like this. Come on, let's get through it. So today the subject is talking about female leadership in a biblical perspective. I think a lot of women have issue when it comes to Christianity and their belief system and how they interpret the Bible when it comes to this subject. And I
Yeah.
think that maybe we're misled when we're trying to understand this. Like, I was actually on a panel not too long ago, and it was like, women can't be in leadership. And it was like, calm down. I truly believe that women can be in leadership based on biblical teachings and being within God's will. And today we're going to explore how. What do you think, Malik?
Yeah, so I think here's the main focus point that I want to start with, right?
Mhm.
We have Jesus and we have God the Father, right? So we have Jesus the Son and God the Father, right? They are equal in their essence of divinity. They're both God. Jesus is God, the Father is God.
Mhm.
Where you see the differences, Jesus submits, he is subordinate in role to the Father, which is why you see Jesus pray to the Father, because his role is different than the Father's role, but it doesn't take away his nature of divinity, of being God. The
Right.
reason I'm saying this is because you have male and you have female, right? Male and female, they're both equal when we're talking about being human beings. They're both equal in the eyes of Jesus and in the eyes of God. A
Mhm.
female and a male are no different as being humans in nature. Just
Right.
like God and the Son and the Father have no differences in being God. They have no difference in their nature of being God. Just like you have no difference in nature of being human in a male and a female. The reason I say this is because it just because you share the same essence of nature does not mean that your roles are not different.
Yeah, they're completely different.
They're completely different. So when
Mhm.
we're talking about leadership in churches, right, it does not mean that women should not teach. It does not mean that women should not learn. It does not mean that women can't prophesied. It doesn't mean that women can't have spiritual authority, because there's a lot of biblical texts that show you women has a biblical authority. It shows you that women had spiritual authority. It shows you that women were judges. It shows you that women were prophets. It shows you all these different things, right? But I think where people fail to realize, especially a lot of people who quote these verses, they don't understand. They do not understand that the roles for men and women in the churches are different.
Mhm.
They're different. And this is the part that they're stumbling on, because they're only focused on the verses and not actually dissecting the meaning of these verses.
So, okay, let's get into my first question then. Did Jesus actually forbid women from leadership, or is that a misinterpretation of Paul's writings?
No, Jesus never. You tell me, I'll challenge anyone to give me one verse, one sentence where Jesus said women are banned from doing this. There's
Mhm.
not one verse in the Bible where Jesus teaches that women cannot, should not, and will not teach in a church, will not and should not teach. And the reason why you won't find this is because of this is the reason why I just explained what I explained at the beginning. Jesus, the Son, and God the Father, they share divinity. Jesus will never tell his daughter or his son, do not preach the gospel, do not preach the salvation to others. Why would he say, men, you should go preach the gospel, you should go talk about the gospel, but women, you better not? Why would I do that when I'm trying to save both of you? I'm trying
Mhm.
to save man and I'm trying to save woman.
And
You
I
will
think
never
that
find
that kind of,
you will never find that in the Bible, because he's here to save everyone. That includes male and female.
right, and I think that the issue that women have when it comes down to them understanding this concept is because is my words and the things that I believe in and the things that I could share amongst children, other women, and even men, are they null and void? Like, are they not important? You know what I'm saying?
Is what
Um,
not important.
hold on a second.
Sorry, y'all. We got kids. It's time for the little one to go down. He start crying, so it's time to put him down for a little quick nap. A little quick nap. Well, actually, it's not even nap time. It's time for him to go to bed. It's almost 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's time for him to go to sleep. But I wanted to um, say that women, I think that men and women actually misinterpret these verses. Like when Paul says that a woman should be quiet and should be in all submissiveness and should not preach, we have to understand the context of what Paul is speaking about when he's saying that women should not. And actually, he doesn't even say should not. He said, I don't permit. And we have to understand what permitting means, meaning in this moment in time, I do not want this to happen. And the reason is because in First Timothy, who is Paul writing to? That's the first thing we have to address. Who is Paul writing to? And Paul in this
Sorry about that.
epistle
The children.
to Timothy, he's writing to Timothy in Ephesus, which in that area it was about pagan worship. It was about worshiping goddesses. It was an area where women were out of control. And that's the reason why he's writing this letter to Timothy. So I was just explaining to them, a little bit about Paul's writings to Timothy and why that context in that verse came up in the first place.
Yeah, I was really intrigued when you explained that to me in a different conversation. Like, I thought that when he's talking to Timothy, he's talking about females in general, right?
Mm.
Like, not having any type of leadership or taking anything that women say. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
in actuality, when you explained it, it was more about idolatry.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was about these people in this area were not worshiping the one and true God. They were
Mhm.
worshiping multiple gods. They were worshiping Mother Earth. They were just doing a whole bunch of stuff. They were cutting their hair off, which is why they say women, you need to have long hair and all these different types of things, because there's a lot of things that were going on. And even Paul even says, and I believe it's Corinthians actually, where Paul is talking about women should subject themselves. And a lot of people misinterpret this and mean like, why would he say that? That's offensive. But the reason, it's actually, if you actually truly read it, what he's saying is, when he says that women are to subject themselves, he's saying the woman, you should allow yourself to submit. Don't let someone else force you to submit. You ought to submit on your own accord, because if you submit on your own accord, this is godly, versus if I have to force you, or if another man has to force you, or if God has to force you. That's not godly. This is your own choice, your own doing. I'm saying you are subjecting yourself. You should subject yourself, because I want you to willingly be submissive to your husband, because if you're willingly submissive to your husband, then you're willingly submissive to the Father and the Savior. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I just can't wrap my head around when women get so offended by, like, don't submit to a man and don't be a doormat and don't have someone over you. And I think that the truth is there's a preservation for women and a shielding of women that they don't want to accept, like, I don't think it's anything where your voice shouldn't be heard or you shouldn't be seen or you can't have um some type of authority within your life,
Yeah.
especially within marriage or within 1 second.
These kids, boy, I tell you. These kids, boy. Well, let me take y'all to the Bible. Actually, she's coming right back, so we'll wait 1 second for her so we can actually break down this Bible.
The up and down sides of filming earlier. The kids is up.
I
Where
told
you?
you to wait till they sleep.
I know I should have listened. Look. There we go. We got some leadership, some. I think it's best if we film a little bit earlier. Well, now we know. But back to what I was saying, I think that um, women having a voice is not the issue. Do you agree? Do you think it's about the female voice not being heard, or is it about what you were saying earlier, submission?
So what are you? So ask it directly so I can understand what you're trying to say.
What I'm asking is there an issue with the woman being vocal or having some type of say so or input in the decisions of her household? Or should she be quiet and have no say so? And that's unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not just in her household, but even in different realms. Like when we're talking about church, when we're talking about leadership in general, should she not be heard or seen? Or is that okay?
No. So it's not about should she not be heard, right? Because if also in the Bible you'll find that a husband is supposed to treat his wife as if it's himself, and you wouldn't treat yourself like the ground that you walk on.
Mhm.
So why would you treat your wife like she's just the ground that you walk on, right? So it's not about not being heard. It's about what I just said earlier. Still going back to the basis. The Son, Jesus, right, was subordinate to the Father. And it doesn't take away that the Son, Jesus, is still holy, righteous, divine, and God.
Mhm.
It does not take away from that. The difference is their roles. The Father's role is different than the Son's role. So the reason why I keep bringing this up is because we have to understand why these things are important. The wife, the reason why we're seeing the trouble in these marriages and in different aspects is the problem is men don't understand their role and women don't understand their role. Men, the reason why you're the head of the household is because you're supposed to be a role that is subjected to leadership, like direct leadership. The woman is supposed to follow that because she's supposed to follow him to God.
Mhm.
She's following him to God. So you're seeing, even with our Savior, he submitted.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
when a woman says, I can't submit, I won't submit, what you're saying is, I don't care what my Savior says. Because even your Savior submitted to the Father, which is why he prayed to the Father. But it doesn't take away his nature. Just because you're a woman and you're submitting to your husband, it doesn't take away that you're still a human. It doesn't take away that you're still a being. It doesn't take away the fact that you're still a person, that you still have feelings, you still have voices, you still have roles to fill. It's like this. We have children, right? I'm a man, you're a woman. So because I'm a man, my voice only matters when it comes to how I should lead my child, right?
Because you're a man, your
The, I'm,
voice matters.
what I'm asking is, if we have children together, does the man's voice only matter in how to properly teach children anything?
No, it matters in all
Does the
realms.
does the woman's voice only matter in how to teach the children anything?
Right. No, it matters abundantly.
So both the male and the females, the mother and the father's point of views matter when trying to raise these children, right?
Hmm.
But the thing is, their roles are different. It doesn't take away the fact that they both have a job to do when it comes to raising that child.
Right.
They both have a job to do. Similar to the church, the role of a man in the church is different than the role of a woman in a church, but it doesn't take away the fact that they both play a part in the church. They both play a key part in the church.
And that's what I'm asking. Is that's exactly what I'm saying. Can women not adopt roles that men are in? That's what I'm saying. Like, if a man is a pastor, does that mean that's off limits for a woman because their roles are parallel, but they can't intersect? That's what I'm hearing. When you're saying the roles are different, it's like, can women not take on those roles?
No, it doesn't mean that women cannot. It doesn't mean women cannot, because we have example like Phoebe in the Bible. Phoebe was a deacon.
Hmm.
Phoebe was a deacon.
But you remember when you said, just because there are stories in the Bible, like when we talk about like Solomon, right? And we talk about the things that he did that were wrong. And it's like, well, this is to be an example to other people, but it's not to follow what he did. We're just telling that story. Is Phoebe the same way? Is it just something to
No,
understand?
well, no, that's not the. I get what you're saying. You're talking about prescriptive and descriptive.
Hmm.
So you have to look at the beginning and the end of these stories, right? Solomon was used as an example of what not to do, and how do we know this is because the way his story ended up.
Hmm.
Phoebe's story was different. Her story didn't end in tragedy. Her story was strictly example for, and it was strictly descriptive in a sense of, here is an example of a woman doing this. But it
Hmm.
didn't say, here's an example of a woman doing this, and she ended up in hellfire because of it. It never tells you this. It never tells you this. It didn't say, here's an example of a deacon woman in the Bible, and this all these bad tragedies happened to her before because doing it. It never
It doesn't
tells you.
give punishment in
No,
regard to what she's done.
exactly. So this gives you a description of women could do this,
Hmm.
right? The only thing is, the reason it's not that women can't do it. It's more of about a natural role, right? If your husband is a godly man, right, then he's naturally going to position himself to be in that role before you.
Hmm.
And if you are a godly woman, you're not going to try to overstep your husband and say, well, I want to be the deacon, not you. You wouldn't do that. You're going to submit to him because your husband is godly. So your husband is going to be the deacon. Your husband is going to be the pastor. Your husband is going to be the bishop. Your husband is going to be the apostle.
So a
Because
woman should feel weary of competing or trying to be in the same position as her husband.
yes, exactly. And it doesn't mean that it's because she can't do it. Obviously, we know women are smart. Just they're humans, just like women. I mean, just like men. What we're talking about is the submission to the man. Your man is the head. He is first. So if he is the deacon, men, you see, this is why you see more men that are pastors over women. Because if he's the pastor, 9 times out of 10, pastors are married, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a male pastor, what does it look like as you being a godly woman? You being a godly woman, and you're like, well, I should be the pastor of this church, not my husband. How does that
Well,
make you?
that's what I'm asking. Is it ungodly for a woman to, like, if you preach first service Sunday, I preach second service. Say for instance, like our church, we have three services, right? You preach first service, I preach the 10 o'clock, you preach the 11, or whatever the case may be. Is that me putting myself in your role, or is that us diversifying, the responsibility, or
Well,
divvying it up,
yeah, that's y'all. That's you putting yourself, trying to put yourself in a position to have the same role, which is what I'm saying is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this. If I'm a providing male husband,
Right.
right? Like, well, I want to do that too. I want to be a providing female husband. I want to be a providing wife.
All right.
Why are you trying to put yourself in the same role? There's no reason for this. This is why you find yourself butting heads, because you're trying to be in the same role at the same time. You're
But does
trying
that
to
mean does that
you're
mean Okay, you're trying to compete, but does that mean that like that power couple thing is null and void? You know what I'm saying? Like I can't be bringing bacon home if he bringing bacon home, especially if I'm bringing home more than him, right?
No, no. So if you are, if what I'm saying, the money part is not, making money is not the issue.
Oh,
What I specifically said was the provider, right? If I come home and I say, let's say a man makes $200,000 a year and the woman makes $300,000 a year, right?
mhm,
And he says, I'm gonna pay all the bills. I got it. I got this. I'm gonna pay all the bills. But she's like, no, it's okay. I'll pay all the bills because I make a little more than you. That
mhm.
you're taking away his role of him trying to be the provider because you want that role. It's not about the money making. It's about the role, the position.
And I
Even if you make more money, that is fine. If
right.
she makes more money, that's fine. It's not about the money. It's about his role. Just like if the mother, right, has a 2-year-old child, right? And the husband comes along and is like, he's kissing all over the kids, nurturing the kids more than you. You be like, why can't I want to be the good mom. I want to kiss the boo-boos, and like you can do it sometimes, but that's supposed to be my natural role. I'm supposed to be the one that the kids think is the loving one, right?
Mhm.
And if he takes that from you, you now naturally you feel out of order. Naturally, you feel like, why is he taking my role of being sweet? Is he a little off? For real, I'm saying because he's trying to take the position that you are naturally given, just like the man is naturally given this position. It's not that it's wrong, it's that it feels unnatural.
But is that like relative to who's discussing this, or is this something that is like a universal law? You know what I'm saying? Like should the dynamics between a man and a woman be, similar in every circumstance, Because say
I,
for instance the man is like a little bit more like I like a woman to take a little bit more of a lead, right? And he's more of a back burner type of guy. But he's of course hetero. There's no issues in that realm, but it's just like I'm just saying, I'm just saying like he's completely on the straight and narrow, but he just is not this dominant figure in the relationship and the woman is. Say she had a career prior to him, or say she just has accumulated these type of accolades. Does it mean that because she's in the dynamic with the man now that she has to find herself in a lesser role than him?
what do you
Because
mean
if
by what do you mean by lesser role?
like should she demote herself in what she was doing independently now that she's married?
I don't understand what you mean by demoting.
So
That's
say
the
for
problem.
instance
That's
she had
that's,
so
that's the problem.
what's the problem?
The thought process of demoting, like I have to downgrade myself so that way I could fit with my husband. That's the issue. If This is the thing, if both the husband and the wife are saying that they believe in Christ and they believe in God, right?
Mhm.
She could make 10 times more than him. She's not downgrading herself if she chooses to marry this man who makes less than her and he is saying, I'm making the decisions. She's not downgrading herself. What she's doing is she's submitting herself to the husband, just like Christ submitted to the Father. And it doesn't mean she's less of a human being now. It means she's following godly order, just like Jesus followed order. There's order in design for a reason. It does not take away that Jesus is still divine just because he prays to the Father. Jesus understands that his role is different from the Father's. And because his role is different from the Father's and he takes on flesh, he has to be subordinate to the Father because of this. Just like just because a woman makes more money and she chooses to marry a man that makes less money than her, she's not downgrading herself or demoting herself. What she's doing, she's following godly order and saying, no matter what, he is the head of the house. He is the leader. So because he is the leader, Therefore, I have to be subordinate to his role. And his role is the headship. No matter how much money I make, if I'm a godly woman, I have to follow his headship to be a godly woman.
So now the question lies with, if he's not a man that is wanting to assert himself into that role. Like if he's a man who says it's okay if you make the decisions, or it's okay if you do this, should she not marry that man? You see what I'm
Just
saying? Like,
no,
is
no,
he
it is.
on
It is.
because he's just not that in his personality, or in his deliverance when it comes to the family order. He's more like, my wife makes the decision, she kind of does all the she does all of those things, and I'm kind of more household type of thing. We both work, but she makes a little bit more than me, and so she makes most of the financial decisions or decisions in the household, and I'm okay with that. Is that still okay?
So yeah, it never tells you in the Bible that the man should not get married if he's less assertive with himself, right?
Hmm.
And he's not as vocal as she may be, right? It doesn't say a vocal woman should not marry a non-vocal man. You can't find that anywhere. So
Hmm.
you have to understand discernment. You have to understand case by case, and also you have to understand that the scenario you're giving is actually a lot of times not as common. Is not as common. So there's always going to be exceptions to the natural rule and to the natural law. There's always exceptions to these natural laws and natural rules, right? But at the end of the day,
We can't live in the exceptions.
we can't live in the exceptions.
Yeah.
Exactly. We cannot
Yeah.
live in the exceptions. And just to give an answer to the exception, if she is more assertive than her husband, right? I'll tell you this. If she is a godly woman, even if she's more assertive, you know what she's going to do? She's going to go to him and consider his input.
Hmm.
She may make the decision, right? Because she knows that he's not very assertive. He's not very good with making final decisions, right? But she chose to marry him and he chose to marry her. But what she would do and what she ought to do and what she should do is go to him for his input.
Hmm.
Go to him for his input and
Kind
then
of like
make
kind of
and
like
should
forcing him into that position. Yeah.
yeah. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even necessarily say forcing. It's more of like
Maneuvering.
like holding his hand through it.
Mhm.
Yeah, holding his
And
hand
that
through
is
it.
a little,
That's why I said these are exceptions.
yeah,
These
they're
are
exceptions.
because there is some men that are like this, right? Which is why biblical teaching is very important because this will help men from a young age to get out of these habits, to get out
Hmm.
of these habits. And so when they become adults, they won't have these habits of, being subordinate within even themselves,
Yeah,
right? They
and
won't have these thoughts of, I have to hold back a little bit, teaching these men at a young age, hey, you need to assert yourself in these rooms. You need to do this. You need to make sure this. You need to make sure that the person you answer to first is God and everyone else second, right? You teach these men these things, and naturally when they grow up, you'll see that all those butterflies that they had in their stomach went out the window for the most part, which
and
is why
is that like a result of most majority of the time? I know, of course, you said there's exceptions, but is that a result of men kind of being raised with that female leadership as the ultimate thing? You know what I'm saying? They're kind of used to being in the role where they're looking towards female leadership over male leadership, or over being the one in the leadership position.
yes, and this is why I was mentioning about roles, right? Because
Mhm.
the role of a woman is completely different than the role of a man, no matter if it's in the household or in the church, right? And the reason why both are important and the reason why they're different is because the male teaches the man to persevere.
Mm.
They teach even the females, they teach the children how to persevere through things, while
Yeah.
the woman, she teaches them how to kind of cope, or how to get over their feelings, or or hold their feelings in, or kind of dwell within their feelings.